Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It gives me so much pleasure to welcome all of you on behalf of India Habitat Center and Professor Benoy K Behl. Today's talk is the 42nd in his monthly series, Glimpses of Culture. From 2001 till 2020, when the last Limca Book of Records was published, Professor Behl was each year given the record for being the most traveled photographer and art historian. His single-handed vast coverage of Indian and Asian art provides a new and clear perspective on the subjects which he presents. For instance, when he takes us to the monasteries of Ladakh, he shows them in the context of the Buddhist monasteries also of Lahaul-Spiti and Kinnaur. Not only that, he connects the mandalas which are seen here with the earliest mandala in Buddhist art in the Kanheri caves of Western India of the 5th century. He reminds us of the birth of the Yogacara school of Buddhism in the valley of Kashmir and its subsequent development to the Vajrayana, which was carried to the trans-Himalayas. Therefore, a journey with him takes us to the heart of the subject and helps us to understand the meanings which underlie the artistic traditions. He is the person who, for the first time, photographed the 5th century Buddhist paintings of Ajanta in their true colors and details. His book, The Ajanta Caves, has been in constant reprint for over 25 years and has established the art of Ajanta worldwide. His recent book on the art of India in two beautiful volumes is already in its third print run. Many are not aware of the Buddhist traditions which developed in Kashmir and spread all the way across to the Buddhist centers of Indonesia. In today's film, he takes us to the trans-Himalayas, which were transformed by the exquisite Buddhist philosophy and artistic traditions, which were taken there from Kashmir by the great translator Rinchen Zangpo. These early monasteries are a significant chapter in the cultural history of India and of Buddhism. Ladies and gentlemen, Benoy K Behl speaks to us today on the roof of the world. Over to Professor Benoy K Behl now, and I thank you for your attention.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. A great pleasure to be here again with you. My many thanks to India Habitat Center for this yet another opportunity to share a beautiful chapter of the cultural history of India. My many thanks also to Doordarshan, who played such a wonderful role as in public broadcasting and sponsored my deeply researched cultural films in a world which is so obsessed with TRPs and commercial gains. They have been wonderful to support my work over decades. Thank you very much. Now, in the ancient period, the finest art of India was created. And this is some of the finest art of the world. And this art was an art of the people, as thousands of inscriptions show right across the country. This was an art sponsored by the common people. And perhaps that is why it was so good. It was so great, in fact, and it was sublime. And it connected deeply, very personally, with each person who came to it and helped to transform each person, helped to awaken the grace within each person and take them beyond. This was a great social contract between the artist and the people. And today we are going to go into a land where the social contract continued well into modern times. Now, in this ancient art tradition, the purpose of the art was to help us on our path towards knowledge, eventually towards salvation. And the artist had this great challenge, which we have spoken about before. The challenge where eventually we have to be taken to a realization of the final truth, which is supposed to be formless, nirgun, or arupa. And yet, the medium which he has to work with is material, is formful. And therefore, the use of form and material to help generate the knowledge about that which is formless was the great challenge which the Indian artist faced very beautifully. And the way that he found was that he did not try to imitate the optical reality of the world. Instead, he tried to discover and to recreate for us the grace which underlies all that there is. And it is that grace which we respond to when we see that brought to us in art. And we're on the path towards knowledge. We're on the path where peace is generated, and our minds, being peaceful, are able to think deeper and go deeper into the realms of joy and into the realms of discovery. Now, the art began to change with the coming of the medieval period, and gradually some of the sublime nature of the art, some of this ecstasy of the art, some of this joy of the art was left behind. One of the places which continued this exquisite quality of art into the medieval period till at least the 10th or 11th century was the valley of Kashmir. In this beautiful place where the sheer beauty of nature kept one's mind always thinking about the divine, which must be behind all this glory and beauty. In this beautiful vale, the Kashmiri artists created some of the most joyous art that the world has seen. And in the 11th century, Rinchen Zangpo took many Kashmiri artists across to Ladakh, Lahaul-Spiti, and western Tibet, where they created many monasteries. 108 is the legendary number of monasteries which they created. They sculpted them, they painted them, and created a joyous world in the midst of the cold, stark desert of the trans-Himalayas. And this is some of the most beautiful legacies which must be preserved, which must be understood. And this film today is lays before us uh, a historic perspective of these monasteries and this art. And in my earlier films and otherwise, it is the paintings which gain a lot of attention in these monasteries. But in this film, we have concentrated more upon the sculpture, which is not often seen so closely. So I hope that you enjoy it, and I will come to you again after the screening. My many thanks again to Sujata Chatterji, who makes it possible for me to do all that I do. And I will request Sunil to please run the film now. Thank you.
The trans-Himalayan lands of Spiti, Kinnaur and Ladakh are a magical place. The tallest mountains of the world stand guard here. This high-altitude cold desert has a startling variety of landscapes which vary in height from 10,000 feet to over 20,000 feet above sea level. Thoughts of the eternal are never beyond the vision of man here. In this land where everyday life is a challenge, Buddhism arrived very early. The Sani Stupa in Ladakh is believed to have been made by the Emperor Kanishk in the 1st century AD. There is a colossal sculpture of the Maitreya Buddha hewn out of the rock on the ancient route from Srinagar to Leh in Ladakh. It is made in the artistic style of Kashmir of the 8th and 9th centuries. The first great diffusion of Buddhism in the trans-Himalayas was in the 8th century. Guru Padmasambhava established the religion in the entire mountainous region, from Ladakh in the west to Arunachal Pradesh in the east. The great Guru had studied at the Nalanda University in eastern India. In the 10th century, King Yeshe O came to the throne of Guge, comprising western Tibet, Ladakh, Spiti and Kinnaur. This was a time when Buddhism had considerably declined in the trans-Himalayas. What troubled him most was that even the little practice of the religion, which continued, was impure and coloured by local magical rites. In 975 AD, Yeshe O sent Rinchen Zangpo to Kashmir. This arduous journey to a land which was the centre of Buddhism was to bring back scriptures with the original and pure knowledge of the faith. The mission was also to bring back artists to build, paint and sculpt new temples in Guge. Rinchen Zangpo spent 6 years in Kashmir, completing his own education and guiding his disciples. In the years to come, he became known as the revered Lotsava, or Great Translator. His translations brought to Guge the true knowledge of Buddhism which the king had sought. In the 4th century, in the Buddhist centers of Kashmir, the Yogacara school of thought had developed. It was believed that the most effective method for the attainment of the highest truth was through meditation or yoga. The different aspects of the wisdom of the Buddha were personified as the 5 Buddhas: Akshobhaya, Ratnasambhava, Amitabha, Amogha Siddhi, and Verochana. Verochana, who symbolizes the mirror-like wisdom of the Buddha's enlightenment, is the supreme Buddha in the Yoga Tantras. Seated at the center of the universe, all creation stems from him.
It's a misconception that many people think these images of the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas are the representation of the gods. No. But they are the deities. Deities means one of the aspects of the Chetsikas and Chitta, because it's a consciousness. No. It's a factor of one of the consciousnesses. No. So they are not truly existing. So these images, as Abhayakar Gupta, when he is the great master of the mandala, he is a mandalacharya, he says, no, the images come from the voidness and goes to the voidness.
Mandalas which are seen in Buddhist art from the 5th and 6th centuries are an integral part of Vajrayana practice. The path to enlightenment is visualized as a movement through various levels of spiritual growth. From the outer spheres towards the illumined center, towards the moment of the realization of the truth that the Buddha represents.
So he has to create it within his mind and then laboriously identify all the parts of his being, physical and mental, with those of the mandala, to realize that ultimately his body is just another mandala, and therefore identical in essence with any other entity which can be represented by a mandala, such as a temple or a territory or the whole universe or Buddhahood. So one progresses upwards.
Rinchen Zangpo had studied scriptures related to mandalas of Vairocana during the time he spent in Kashmir. In this period of the second diffusion of Buddhism in the trans-Himalayas, it was mainly temples devoted to Vairocana which were set up. It is believed by the people of the trans-Himalayan lands that Rinchen Zangpo made 108 monasteries and temples. He had brought 32 artists to Guge from the valley of Kashmir. They were to create the foundations of a lasting tradition of Buddhist art in the trans-Himalayas. The painters and sculptors from Kashmir brought with them a highly sophisticated form of art, which was deeply rooted in the classic Sanskrit texts of India. In the 10th century, Abhinav Gupta had taken the Indian philosophy of aesthetics to rare heights of development. This was in a climate deeply imbued with the thoughts of Kashmir Shaivism, which saw the beauty of the world around as a reflection of the glory of God. The experience of beauty, the ecstasy of the aesthetic experience, was considered to be akin to the final bliss of salvation itself. The artistic styles which flourished in the valley were born out of the confluence of great cultures. The art of the plains of India by the 5th century had attained a deep and inward look and a quality of sublime introspection. This tradition of art met the rich influences of the vibrant cultures which came to Kashmir along the trade routes from Central Asia, China, and even the Mediterranean. Such was the inheritance of the Kashmiri artists who made the monasteries of Rinchen Zangpo. The masters from Kashmir also trained local artists. There was a marvelous blending of the local idioms with the classic styles coming from Kashmir. In a fertile valley in Spiti is the monastic temple complex of the Tabo village. This is the earliest functioning monastery, which is believed to have been founded by Rinchen Zangpo in 996 AD. Inscriptions at Tabo refer to the kings of the Guge dynasty who patronized the Tabo monastery. In 1042, a major renovation of the monastery was carried out. The sculptures and most of the paintings in the Dukhang, or assembly hall, are believed to be of that period. The assembly hall at Tabo is an architectural Vajradhatu mandala. The deities are placed along the walls, and Mahaverochana is made at the apex of the arrangement. 4 figures of Verochana, seated back to back, symbolize the movement of dharma in all directions from the body of the Buddha. Mahaverochana represents supreme enlightenment. The deities around him emanate from his universal body and represent different aspects of him. As the worshippers or pilgrims enter the room, they become a part of the mandala. The sculptures of the temple are made of clay. Almost life-sized, 37 deities are placed at a height upon the wall without any support from the floor. This is in keeping with descriptions of clay sculpture techniques in Indian texts of the 8th and 12th centuries. They appear to hover in a heavenly space. The figures would all have originally held attributes such as a book or a sword. These are now missing. The facial type, the crown and jewelry, and the other details came to this region through the hands of the Kashmiri artists who made them. A variety of artistic influences can be discerned in the details. Above all, it is the look of gentle benevolence and peace upon the faces of these deities that moves the worshippers. In the Indian tradition of worship, devotees express their adoration through music and dance. They light lamps and make offerings of flower garlands and incense. In the mandala, these offerings are personified as goddesses. The goddess Vajralasya symbolizes the grace of love. Vajranritya symbolizes the offering of dance, and Vajradhupa symbolizes the offering of incense. In the cellar, behind the 4-bodied Verochana, is made a Buddha. He is flanked by bodhisattvas on either side. Protective deities are placed on the entrance wall. They do not let the confusion of the material world disturb us inside. Not very far from Tabo, the village of Lalong preserves 2 early buildings. The smaller one is a shelter for an impressive sculpture of 4 Verochanas sitting back to back. The Ser Khang, or Golden Temple at Lalong, is one of the most beautiful creations of the entire trans-Himalayas. The walls have been transformed into a heavenly realm, peopled with gentle bodhisattvas and goddesses. These deities are arranged around a figure of the Shakyamuni Buddha. It is a world of serenity, yet one which elates the worshipper, as he looks upon intertwining creepers and numberless mythical beings which populate the spaces between the deities. Also seen is the continuous vine of the creative blossoming of the world, from which issue numberless forms. This has been a feature in Indian art since the 2nd century BC in the Vedika reliefs of the Bharhut Stupa. Indra is depicted below the Shakyamuni Buddha, worshipping him. His gentle expression and graceful posture make this one of the masterpieces of the Serkhang sculptures. On the left wall of the temple is a sculptural mandala of Verochana as the Dharma Dhatu Vajishvara Manjushri. Here he represents wisdom. In Kinnaur, which adjoins the Spiti Valley, is a 10th century carved stone stele. It has an inscription of King Yeshe O, which speaks of the time of the second diffusion, when it says, "The religion of God and man was taken to its peak." An original wooden pillar capital survives in the Lotsava Lakhang in Shalkar village in Kinnaur. It is carved clearly in the Kashmiri style. The Nako village at about 13,000 feet altitude in Kinnaur has an early temple complex. The main temple is called the Lotsava Lakhang, or the temple of the great translator Rinchen Zangpo. The surviving clay sculptures at Nako show close similarities with the other temples of the period in the trans-Himalayas. The remote temple of Charang in Kinnaur is also believed to have been founded by Rinchen Zangpo. It continues the tradition of fixing statues of deities high upon the walls. The main deity here is Verochana, and the statues upon the walls appear to form an architectural mandala. Located in fertile pockets of the river valleys of Ladakh are the closely associated temple complexes of Alchi, Mangyu and Sumda. All three are believed by the people of Ladakh to have been created by Rinchen Zangpo in one night. The entrance to the Alchi Dukhang, or assembly hall, is a fine example of detailed wood carving in the Kashmiri style. The shrine of the Dukhang has fine clay figures with Verochana at the center. These graceful forms elevate us through our response to their beauty and joyousness. The entrance to the Sumstek, or three-storied temple, is delicately carved in the Kashmiri style. Figures are framed in architectural forms, as seen in the temples of Kashmir since the 8th century. A special feature of the temples of Ladakh of this period are colossal figures of bodhisattvas. These are made of the local mud and stand 2 stories high. The exquisite paintings of the Sumstek were made by Kashmiri painters. They are the only surviving visual record of the culture of the Kashmir Valley at that time. The art of the temple complex of Mangyu is very similar to that of Alchi. The tradition of Brihad or colossal Buddhas is continued here in the Bodhisattva statues, which are over 12 feet high. A stupa at Mangyu has the most beautiful interior of any in the trans-Himalayan region. There are fine statues and paintings here of the period of the Second Diffusion. The monastery of Sumda, at about 13,000 feet altitude, is the third temple complex, which is supposed to have been built in the same night as Alchi and Mangyu. What makes Sumda remarkable is the almost entirely preserved Vajradhatu mandala made out of clay. 37 figures create an ordered universe. Flying figures bear offerings for the deities who represent our inner qualities. There is a joy which pervades this world of purity and graceful form. This experience of joy lies at the heart of the Buddhism, which came during the Second Diffusion. In the vast and bleak desert lands of the trans-Himalayas, the temples of the Second Diffusion of Buddhism are like an oasis of color. The architecture, the sculpture, and the paintings are all a part of a unified, sacred plan. Their purpose is to move us and to transport us far from the cares and confusions of the material world, to the depth of the peace to be found within.
Thank you very much, Sunil, for that excellent screening. Now, the social contract between the artist and the people continued in the trans-Himalayas well into the modern period. In fact, the artist was producing not only paintings and sculpture, but also dance. And through all these means, through all these ways, the artist, who in this case was also very often the monk, was sharing the values of the path towards salvation, showing the path towards salvation, showing how to leave behind the cares and confusions of the material world, how to leave behind our attachments and the pain which comes because of these attachments. And you see this high quality of art, perhaps because the social contract is existing. In fact, it is it's only in remote monasteries of the trans-Himalayas where until recently I had seen the cham dances, for instance, done with the full absorption, with the full spirit of meditation. Places which had become infested with tourism are places where the monks were no longer meditating. They were no longer sharing their inner experiences. And the villagers who came to gain this knowledge were in fact kept behind fences, because the areas in front were really meant for the paying tourists. So the social contract was gone. And because the social contract was gone, the monks were moving about in a very wooden fashion. They were not experiencing that reality which there was to be shared. There was no sharing, there was no reality. Therefore, it's very important to understand the truth of these ancient traditions and the value of them. And the value of them becomes so obvious when you look at these truly ancient monasteries and you see the high quality of art here. The art moves you and you are convinced of the value. You know the value. And such is the such is the heritage of the art, such is the heritage of the thought processes and traditions and societal traditions behind the art. And all this truly must be preserved. I remember till the 1990s when I was making so many trips to Ladakh. Practically every other person was still carrying a prayer wheel in his hand. It was so nice. There was something which they believed in. There was a purpose in life because there was a belief, and there was a kindness in life because of that belief. The traditions of compassion, the true traditions of Buddhism, were so well maintained, and it gave a magical quality to the entire environment. It made it so beautiful to be there. Of course, with the coming of more development and with the coming of far too much tourism, all this had to change. And I would be very happy to answer your questions and respond to what you may have to ask. Please put your questions in the chat box and Sujata will read these out to me. Thank you.
Before I do that, I'd love to just announce our next screening, which would be on a Saturday once again at 6 p.m. The date would be April 26th, and the film is Ecstasy in Stone, Khajuraho, about one of the most glorious temple cities of the world. So that's not to be missed. Please mark it in your calendar. We'd love to have all of you with us. Devanshi, some comments? Thank you so much, sir. It is great to have you.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Ajay Poddar, breathtaking and uplifting.
Thank you, Ajay. Thank you so much. That is your own response from your own feelings and knowledge.
Krishna Burli, what an endurance and enlightenment with timelessness in their dedication. I salute the human mind, body, consciousness, and dissolving of the human ego.
Thank you so much. And truly, truly, these are the aims which all of us have before us, and so well put by you. Thank you.
No questions seem to have come till now. Maybe we'd like to share about our YouTube channel.
Those of you who may want to see other films and programs which you may have missed, may please go to the YouTube channel Benoy Behl. And what a marvelous path it is, what a marvelous world it is to become absorbed in the beauty of these glorious Buddhist and other artistic traditions. There is so much joy to be found when you are away from concerns which pull us down. All this is truly so uplifting and so peaceful. It is all this which creates that peaceful frame of mind within which we can search for that which may be true and lasting, which may take us away from the the mithya, the illusions of the material world, which may help us to realize the shunyata, the meaninglessness of all these forms which constantly crowd around us and seek our attention. And it is the grace which the artist finds, the grace to which we respond, and there is that feeling immediately of peace. And truly, each time I see the art of these monasteries of Rinchen Zangpo, I'm influenced so much by that grace. Thank you.
That's a comment. Dr. Naini, it was such a visual pleasure and knowledge.
Thank you. I'm so glad you enjoyed it.
John Palka, the landscape of Spiti and also Lahaul, which Yvonne and I experienced in 1961, has gently sweeping lines that embrace you very powerfully. Why is that not reflected in the art?
Of course, John, this art is created by artists from the Valley of Kashmir. And it is an art which creates islands of beauty and color in the midst of these trans-Himalayan, spread out, vast deserts. And in that, each one of these monasteries is like a bejeweled island of joy where you can go to lose yourself. Thank you.
Devanshi, what role did the Silk Route play in shaping the artistic traditions of the region? How is climate change impacting the preservation of Buddhist art and architecture in the Trans-Himalayas? If time allows, sir, could you please address it?
Yes, there was an artery on the Silk Route which went from China to Europe. And this artery went down through Ladakh and Srinagar. It went down all the way past Nalla Supara, where Mumbai is based now, down to Kerala. As a matter of fact, the movement of these traditions is seen so well on the ceiling of Alchi, for instance. You find the clear depiction of Kalaripayat coming from Kerala. Yes, the changes of climate have been severely affecting the monasteries of the Trans-Himalayas. In fact, in the mid 90s, I had begun to observe that some of the early monasteries were structurally weakened, and the moisture was beginning to destroy their walls. At that time, I held many meetings at Delhi, but found that at that time it was not possible for institutions to work in these high altitude regions and to conserve these structures. So I had turned to Togdan Rinpoche, who was in charge of two of the monasteries that I had identified. And through him, there were hundreds and hundreds of villagers who voluntarily came forward to help in the work to save these monasteries. We identified the best of traditional craftsmen. The army was extremely generous to offer unlimited logistical support, which they had in that region where they were based. And the BARC gave scientific knowledge in terms of analyzing the uh, clay materials of the monasteries and helping me to understand how they could be uh, waterproofed. So, and UNESCO came forward to offer a little bit of money, which was used by us to pay the voluntary workers from the villages. So all this was done, and in 98 and 99, two monasteries, one of the 13th century and one of the 11th century, were structurally strengthened and saved. Since after that, I believe other institutions took heart, and I hope that much work is ongoing to save these very valuable structures. For these are truly valuable, particularly the monasteries of the 10th, 11th century period, 12th century period. These are these are an important part of the heritage of the world. And of course, they are the legacy of the Kashmiri artists, which is also so beautiful. But these are among the jewels of World Heritage, and I hope that much is happening now to see that further damage does not take place. I'm personally out of touch at present. Thank you.
Rajeshri Achyutan, the paintings give a sense of tranquility. Are they the abstract presentations of compassion, peace, and ultimately the realization of the supreme and eternal bliss?
You are so right. It is such a joyous and peaceful bliss which is presented, and on the path towards the realization that we must go beyond the material forms, that we must go beyond human forms, that we must eventually understand that it is all arupa. On that path, anything which creates this peace helps our mind, our being to be addressed. And it is when you are still and at rest that you are able to look further. So that is the purpose of this art. Thank you very much.
Mayank Malhotra, Dr. Benoy, pleasure to be part of today's screening. I attended your art history course in 2013 and still have vivid memories. My question, these stupas look very different from the ones we have seen in Sarnath or other cities, which are usually brick structures. Do you see any commonality or a pattern in various stupas across India and Nepal region?
Yes. In fact, one of my talks is all about stupas and what the stupa represents, what is its purpose. But essentially, all these different stupas that you mentioned, essentially they are the same. It is that formlessness of the eternal. It is that shape which is not the shape of any human being, not the shape of any animal or flower or fruit, before which we can meditate and lose our attachments. It is a perfect place to find peace. So uh, please keep an eye out when I will give my talk again on stupas and deities, and I would be able to share much more in detail with you on this subject. Thank you.
And our course is also coming. Would you like to announce that?
Yes, since the course was mentioned on the 6th and 7th of April, Saturday and Sunday, the course is being held again at the India Habitat Center, and all of you are very welcome to be in touch with the India Habitat Center to register for the course if you would like. Thank you.
Martin has put a comment, though he's left, but because he was here. Thank you very much. Unfortunately, I have to leave. Greetings from Austria.
Thank you very much. Very glad to hear from
Ajay Poddar, the Silk Route passed through our hometown, Ramgarh Shekhawati at Sikar district, the first planned city in the world.
you. Amazing. In fact, yes, that part of the country was so deeply involved with trade. The the, the number of interactions which took place there as people came from various places and traded. So much art was created, so much culture was generated and created there. Thank you for bringing that to our attention.
Dr. Naini, thank you very much. Interesting and thought-provoking presentation.
Thank you so much.
Therese, excellent presentation and warmest greetings from Germany.
Such a pleasure to have you, and thank you so much. Wishing you all the best.
Well, we seem to have come to the end of comments and questions.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. It was a great pleasure, and I look forward to being with you again. And once again, many thanks to India Habitat Center and to Sunil. Thank you.